The Roman Empire commanded territory spanning from the moors of Britain to the sands of Syria. Managing a population of 50 million across 3 continents required a system far more complex than simply stationing a military garrison in every province. Today we walk through the ruins of ancient forums and gaze up at marble arches, treating these structures as civic decorations. We view them through the lens of classical aesthetics. But maintaining order across such a massive fractured population meant rival factions and state leaders needed a mechanism to establish absolute authority. They required a way to secure loyalty, legitimize rule, and wage political battles without drawing a weapon. To achieve this, emperors and cult leaders engineered the physical environment itself. City streets, public squares, and underground caverns were activated as instruments of psychological influence. The marble columns and painted frescoes of Rome are a codified method of mass communication. To understand the empire, we have to read its architecture like a strategic military map. Emperor Nero sought to project an authority that bypassed human institutions entirely, tying his reign directly to the cycles of the sun and cosmos. His 300-acre Domus Aurea complex was constructed to physically manufacture this divine legitimacy. The architecture actively manipulated streaming sunlight through massive ceiling apertures, turning the rooms into massive chronological instruments. Decades later, Emperor Trajan utilized physical monuments to broadcast a highly encrypted militaristic strength. If you look at Trajan's column from the ground today, you see a dense overlapping spiral of soldiers, weapons, and construction. It appears chaotic, a visual overload of war documentation, yet historians have discovered a rigid geometric grid hidden within the design. As this diagram illustrates an invisible version. Vertical axis cuts straight up through the spiral layers, connecting specific thematic notes. By standing in a specific spot, a viewer looks up to see the emperor speaking to troops, then appearing victorious, then crossing a bridge, all stacked in a single vertical column. This vertical alignment bypasses the complex narrative spiral to deliver a high-speed summary of Trajan's dominance. The architect engineered a visual shortcut to belief by controlling the viewer's line of sight on the ground. They transformed a dense historical record into a targeted, inescapable pulse of state propaganda. 2 centuries later, the empire was fracturing. To maintain his grip, Emperor Constantine required a visual language that left absolutely zero room for interpretation. The Arch of Constantine stands near the Colosseum. For centuries, Renaissance critics studied its flattened carvings and concluded that Roman artistic capability had severely declined. You can see the stylistic clash directly on the monument. The top roundels feature 3-dimensional, naturally proportioned human bodies. Directly below them, the newer Constantinian figures abandoned that technique. Constantine didn't lose access to master sculptors. He intentionally discarded classical realism for geometric legibility. The emperor is seated centrally, rendered twice as large as the surrounding subjects. The citizens receiving his generosity are locked into rigid symmetrical rows. The hierarchy is unmistakable to anyone walking down the Via Triumphalis. Constantine's administration converted the public facade of Rome into an unambiguous diagram of absolute rank, where every chisel stroke reinforced the necessity of submission to the state. Beneath the sunlit public squares, the ideological battlefield expended in its catacombs. Here competing secret cults waged a covert turf war. In this subterranean environment, early Christians operated in total secrecy. They utilized encrypted architecture like the rotunda or satyr square. Found in Pompeii to identify safe spaces for their radical new faith, this diagram traces a perfect multidirectional palindrome. It reads the same: left to right, right to left, top to bottom and bottom to top. To an outsider, it was an unremarkable piece of graffiti. To an initiate, it was a clear territorial marker. Their primary rival in these underground spaces was Mithraism, a highly structured mystery religion obsessed with cosmic order, astrology, and the manipulation of light. The followers of Mithras built their sanctuaries known as Mithraea, completely without windows. They weaponized pitch blackness and flickering oil lamps, creating dramatic moving shadows that made their sacred wall reliefs appear to physically animate in the dark. The conflict between these groups was physical and literal. At the Roman fortification of Zerzevan Castle, archaeologists recently deciphered a 1700-year-old Aramaic inscription carved into a Mithraean temple. The text documents Christians systematically overtaking, closing, and sealing the pagan sanctuary. The stone record at Zerzevan Castle documents an era of violent room-by-room physical occupation as early Christians literally dismantled the infrastructure of their rivals. When Christianity finally achieved supremacy, the victors absorbed the architectural strategies of the state they had just conquered. They co-opting the techniques developed in Nero's Domus Aurea, the elaborate ceiling mosaics and geometric fresco methods used in imperial palaces were adapted to build many highly organized visual gospels right into the walls of the catacombs. The strict geometric legibility engineered by Emperor Constantine was seamlessly integrated by the Church. The rigid hierarchical compositions of the late Empire became the defining schematic for medieval art, organizing society through perfectly symmetrical visual structures. When the political structures of the Roman Empire finally collapsed, its methods for projecting authority had already fused into the very foundations of Western religion. The Roman strategy of embedding political messages within the physical landscape remains intact. These stone structures established a visual grammar for projecting authority, a system of alignment and symbols that modern institutions continue to deploy.